Hi, this is Tom again. In my previous video, which was about the economic calculation problem and how it doesn't apply to a resource-based economy, I also talked for a while about how the market economy actually doesn't work very well when it comes to introducing new variations of products or completely new products into the marketplace, into the economy. I got a very interesting reply to that on my YouTube channel, which I'm gonna read to you now. It goes like this. The reason why a market works is because you don't have to rely on convincing some organization to change what they produce. If you want to produce a new candy bar, you simply do it yourself. You buy the materials and make it yourself. You don't have to write to some organization, you don't have to give feedback, you don't have to ask anyone for permission. You don't have to get approved by Jacques or his central computer. Giving people that freedom is why a market is superior to an RBE where you need permission to do anything. Okay. What do you do when a double face palm doesn't do it anymore? So, where to begin? I'll roll it up from the back. An RBE where you need permission to do anything. Where are you getting that from? You don't need permission to do anything in a resource-based economy. Does it say anywhere in any Zeitgeist movie, in any lecture that you've ever heard about a resource-based economy that you need permission to do something in an RBE? Are you just making that stuff up and then using it against RBE supporters? Or where does that shit come from? Seriously. You don't need permission from anyone for anything in a resource-based economy. A resource-based economy is completely voluntary. People understand, or will, let's hope, understand in the future that certain behavior is not good for all of us and therefore is not good for the individual. If and when people ever understand those things, they will decide voluntarily to behave in certain ways that are good for themselves because they are good for the environment and good for everyone on the planet. And when that happens, when that is done, there will be a resource-based economy, and at that point no one will have to ask permission for anything from anyone because they understand it already. They will already understand what behavior is sustainable, is socially just, and therefore no one will have to go somewhere and ask permission to do something, okay? So that part obviously is bullshit, as the rest of the comment was. Now to the really stupid part. You don't have to get approved by Jacques or his central computer. Oh my god. Okay. It's so difficult to reply to things that are just so fucktarded. I love that word. Okay, let's turn this around. Maybe that will somehow make people understand who are, like, for example, free market advocates like this guy who wrote this. In a free market, do people have to get things approved by Mises? That would be exactly the same like saying in a resource-based economy you have to get things approved by Jacques. Because Jacques Fresco, who unfortunately will probably not see a resource-based economy because he's coming up very close to 100 years of age, and I don't want to be pessimistic, but it's gonna take a few more years or probably decades until we hopefully will have a resource-based economy. So even the literal notion of getting approval from Jacques Fresco is so fucking stupid that I don't even know what to say to it. And also the not literal notion of I don't know if this person meant something like that. I don't know if he actually meant going to Jacques Fresco and asking him for his approval. I really hope he didn't mean that, but even if he meant the non-literal version of it, of getting things approved by the principles that Jacques Fresco talked about, it still doesn't apply. You don't have to get anything approved by anyone, because once again, as I already explained a few minutes ago, there will not be a resource-based economy unless people have the understanding about how to behave sustainably and why that is in their best self-interest, in their own best interest to behave that way. I can roll it all up again. It's in their best self-interest, in their best own interest to behave in a way that creates social justice on the entire planet, in a way that creates sustainability on the entire planet, because sustainability is good for your health. If the environment is healthy, people are healthy. When there's social injustice, it's shown by Richard Wilkinson's studies, for example. Check them out if you don't know about them. It's shown that in societies with the greatest social injustice, health and all kinds of other social and health aspects are very low. When social injustice is low, meaning when there is better social justice, then health is better, and all kinds and sorts of health aspects are better. So anyone who cares about their own health, about their own well-being, and is not completely stupid in the head, will want a society without a lot of social injustice. That's really not that complicated to understand. So short-sighted selfishness is not selfishness at all, because short-sighted selfishness is the worst thing you can do for yourself. And that's not just some spiritual, esoteric notion that I'm talking about. It's scientific. Look at the data. And it's simply logical too. I mean, if everyone in a society is doing well and is healthy, then you will also be doing well and be healthy, because you are part of that society. And just looking short-sightedly after your own well-being all the time just means fighting against everyone else all the time, and that again creates social injustice. And you can, like I said, you can just simply check out the data. It's all over the planet. It can be seen. Wherever there's a huge wealth gap, wherever there's rich and poor in a country, the rich and the poor suffer the health consequences of that. So, but that was just the first part I wanted to get to, which was simply the really idiotic, stupid part about Jacques and his central computer. No, there's no central computer in a resource-based economy. Go back to my previous video. Anyway, now let's get to the part that we can really talk about in some way that is not just ridiculous. the part about how to introduce variations or completely new products into the market, into the economy. Now, what this guy wrote was, I'll repeat again, if you want to produce a new candy bar, you simply do it yourself. You buy the materials and make it yourself. You don't have to write some organization. You don't have to give feedback. You don't have to ask anyone for permission. Okay, that's where we're getting the stupid part again. But yeah, what he's basically saying is, if I want a new variation of a Kindle, I have to build it myself, introduce it into the marketplace, and that's how it's done in a market economy. I mean, we were talking about chocolate bars. I was talking about chocolate bars in my previous video, and so he replied referring a candy bar as something, okay, that is at least imaginable. I could sit down, learn how to make chocolate, get all the ingredients I need for chocolate, and make this new peach flavored walnut chocolate bar that I talked about. Then I'd have to find ways to pretty much create bigger amounts of that chocolate, find someone who manufactures the packaging, find ways to get it into stores. So basically what I'd have to do if I wanted a new flavor of chocolate is I'd have to become a chocolate manufacturer myself. I'd have to learn how to do it first of all. I'd have to get the knowledge, which would probably be the easiest part. Then I'd have to probably take up a credit from a bank or get a budget from somewhere else, rent or maybe even build a chocolate factory and start the production on my own flavor of chocolate, just so that I can introduce it into the economy, into the marketplace. Yeah, and that would be the market way to get a new flavor of chocolate. Now, every time someone has the idea that a new flavor of chocolate might be something nice, they'd have to completely become a chocolate manufacturer, completely quit their job, change their life, get a new education, get some money from somewhere, completely turn their life around and become a chocolate manufacturer. And that's just chocolate now, which is probably a relatively easy example. Like I said, or let's get to the example of a camera that I'm staring into right now. What if all the cameras in the marketplace currently available don't satisfy my needs or wants for a camera? None of them does exactly what I wanted to do. Some of them do one thing I like, some of them do another thing I like, but none of them has it all. So the market way to get that camera that I'd like would be, according to this guy, if you want to produce a new camera, you simply do it yourself. You buy the materials and make it yourself. Right. How is that a good way for consumers to get new variations of products? Every time I think to myself, that would be a good variation on an existing product, I have to become a manufacturer of that product. Seriously, is that the market way? I thought this was gonna be a thing I could talk about without just laughing at it, but it really isn't, because it's so fucking ridiculous. So let's look at this. In a market, according to this guy and according to pretty much everyone I've talked to about a market economy, the things you can do is are basically two things. You can pick and choose as a consumer from the products that are already there. And with that, you give feedback through the market mechanisms to the producers, which I already said before is a very slow and not very precise process. Because, for example, with the camera, when there are just those cameras available and none of them really does what I want a camera to do, then what do I do? How do I give my consumer feedback to the producer of cameras? If there's one camera that has one property that I find good, but not all of them are as I want them, do I have to buy that camera? Then maybe another camera that has another property that I like, but none of the others, which is maybe even from a completely different brand of camera. Do I have to buy that too? Then if I buy a Sony and a Panasonic that both aren't exactly what I want, then how is that ever gonna create the camera that I want? Sony is gonna think, okay, one more guy likes this camera that we have, and Panasonic is gonna think, okay, another guy likes that camera that we're currently producing. But Sony and Panasonic aren't gonna get together and create the perfect camera for me. In absolutely no way is that gonna happen. And so that's the one alleged way to give my consumer feedback and to introduce or mutate products that already exist in the market. And the other way would be to simply build the camera myself, simply, of course. So I don't know, should I even talk about why it's completely idiotic, the idea of building the camera myself that I want? Do I even have to start? Or I don't know, for some people apparently I have to. So at this point, I'm 37 years old now, and I mean, I work with cameras regularly, but I wouldn't know how to build one. I didn't study the construction and the inner mechanics of a camera in all of their details, and I certainly don't have any working experience with building cameras. So where do I start at 37 as a professional cameraman if I want to build my own camera in a market economy? It would probably take me 20 or 30 years of my life and a lot of luck and a lot of hard work and success to build the perfect camera, which by then, of course, will be completely outdated if that was just my goal, to build the camera that to me is the perfect camera now, today, in 2013. 20 or 30 years down the road, that is going to be old trash. So I don't know what that is. It's just so stupid. And these two ways that absolutely do not work for the consumer in a market economy are what market advocates say is the greatest thing in the world and works so absolutely well for people to give feedback to the producers and to introduce variations on products in the marketplace. These completely retarded ideas are the best you got, really. Now, I suggested writing actual feedback to the manufacturer, which of course you can do today, and of course you could do in a resource-based economy, and of course you could do in a free market economy. but in which of these three economic systems do you think writing feedback would actually work the best? In today's market economy, not so much, I think. Of course, there's a chance if I actually wrote to my camera manufacturer and told them these features for my perfect dream camera that I wanted, there's a hypothetical chance that they would take that into consideration. Maybe even more so if more people had the same wishes and they were really a company that cared about the wishes, about the direct feedback from their consumers. Sure, then maybe that could work. That's a much more feasible and realistic way than either of the two other mechanisms that are talked about by market advocates. But this guy who wrote the comment and others, they're saying in a free market you wouldn't write any feedback, you would, because those other mechanisms would work so great. Now I don't see how. I've talked a lot about that now, how I don't see how, but I don't see why they would even claim that in a free market economy you wouldn't write feedback. Why not? It obviously is the only way to get some actual feedback about what precisely you want. I mean, as another example, let's get back to the chocolate flavor. If I wanted that peach flavored walnut chocolate, and absolutely no current brand of chocolate has a peach flavored chocolate on the shelves, then how, without actually telling them the word peach, how would I give the feedback peach to them by buying other flavors of chocolate? Would I have to buy some that are also maybe like red, yellow, orange colored fruits so that maybe they could then get the idea, someone might also want a peach or other nuts, because walnut isn't available, so I'd have to buy hazelnut chocolate so that maybe they know, maybe someone would also like walnuts. I can only give them the direct feedback about peach walnut flavor if I tell them the words peach and walnut. And I can only do that by writing to them, calling them up, whatever. And like I said, making it myself is just that is the stupidest idea of them all. If choosing and giving market feedback through my consumer choice is the stupid idea, and actually telling them what I want is the only idea that actually has any chance of working, then making it myself is the I don't know what word to use. It's just the worst idea of them all. So yeah, getting back to the three economic systems that I was talking about, and once again comparing the actual possibilities we have in these three economic systems. So today's market economy and free market economy I just already talked about. In both of them, market advocates are saying you don't have to write any feedback, you just choose or you make yourself. Now, in a resource-based economy, this guy who wrote me the comment said things would have to get approved by someone or something like that. Now, of course, that is completely wrong, as I already said. Now, in a resource-based economy, the thing is, these great, allegedly great things that you could do in a market economy, you can also do in a resource-based economy. So there's really nothing for market advocates, there's really nothing bad about a resource-based economy, because they still have the freedom to do both of those things. They have the freedom to pick and choose from what's already there on the shelves in the marketplace. So they have that, and it works the same way. You choose the things you like or that come closest to what you like, and through that you give the producers the feedback of what you like. So that option is absolutely there in a resource-based economy. The completely stupid, idiotic option in a market economy, which would be making it yourself, is also there in a resource-based economy. Just in a resource-based economy, it maybe isn't quite that stupid and idiotic, because first of all, in a resource-based economy, if I decided to create my own flavor of chocolate, at least I wouldn't have to get a budget to do it. I would, if the resources are available in a sustainable manner, then I can simply get them. I can make my own favorite new flavor of chocolate, and then whatever, I can introduce it to people. I can, if the resources are available, I can even build a small chocolate factory, or I can go to an existing chocolate factory and just set up a production line that creates my new flavor of chocolate that I've thought of. So I also have this same option to create it myself in a resource-based economy. It just would, where in a market economy it would be completely out of the question. You'd have to turn your entire life around, invest a lot of money, would have huge risk even making it in the marketplace with your new product. In a resource-based economy, it would be much easier, much more feasible, much more likely for you to succeed, because, like I said, you wouldn't need a starting budget. If the resources are there, you simply get them and make the new thing you want to make. Also, in a resource-based economy, you have a lot more time to do it. In a market economy, everyone is in their jobs already. So no consumer who works at one job would have the time to completely turn their life around and completely learn and perform another job just to create a little variation of chocolate. In a resource-based economy, where instead of something like 40 hours a week, you would work something like maybe 2 or 4 hours a week, depending on whatever you do in a job that let's say that is just necessary for the economy to work. The rest of the time you can work or do whatever you want to do. And that doing whatever you want to do could, for example, be creating this new flavor of chocolate. You'd have all the time in the world to do that in a resource-based economy. So this option becomes more feasible. So you'd have the resources because you wouldn't need money. You'd have the time to do it. Also, you'd have the knowledge much more available than in a market economy. In a market economy, if I wanted to create a new camera, pretty much every piece about this camera in there is somehow patented and kept secret by the company that produces it, or maybe they don't even need to keep them secret because they're patented anyway. But I simply couldn't take them and recreate them and use them in my camera. I'd either have to set up a research and development department to invent something that works kind of like those components, or I'd have to spend even more money to pay for the patents to use the existing components. In any case, it would always be much more difficult to just put together a new camera. In a resource-based economy, I simply take the open source information about existing cameras. I probably use a computer program that is freely available to put together the perfect camera that I want in a probably more further down the road resource-based economy where we have technologies like very advanced 3D printers. I probably just feed this new design of my dream camera into the nearest 3D printer, which may be in my home or maybe in a, I don't know, manufacturing building somewhere near my home or wherever, and it's gonna create this new camera. Even without 3D printers, I could create this new open source design of the perfect camera for me, excuse me, and just put it online, put it out there for all current camera manufacturers. If other people look at the new design and say, hey, cool, I'd like that camera too, and I don't know, in whatever form, it gets 10,000 thumb up votes, and then the camera manufacturer says, okay, we're gonna produce this camera. In whatever way, the one thing is clear: everything about choosing this option, about doing it myself, creating this new product myself, is 100 times, 1,000 times easier in a resource-based economy. You have the time, you have the resources, you don't need the money, you have all the information, you have the technology freely available to you. So, yeah. And now coming back to the third option, which in a market economy was pretty much the only option that could really promise any success, namely direct feedback to the producer in the form of words that you tell them to actually let them know what you want exactly. Of course, you also still have that option in a resource-based economy, and it would also work much better, because for the one, especially for this one simple reason, that the producers of products in a resource-based economy are only there to produce what the people want. They have no other motives. In a market economy, they have countless other motives, most of them having to do with making money, obviously. But here's the illusion of market and free market advocates, that making money is always exactly equal to giving the people what they want, which it isn't. Because there are such little tiny factors that some market advocates, just today I talked to one, don't even acknowledge the existence of, like planned obsolescence. It exists, it's out there. Pretty much nothing you can buy today is built to last, built to work for a while, built to be upgraded, built to be recycled. It's all made for cyclical consumption. Excuse me, difficult to pronounce this for an Austrian. It's all built to break down so that it can or must be bought again, and it's not built to be upgraded because upgrading it would just require you to buy a little new component maybe, whereas buying the whole new iPhone or whatever it is, of course, costs you more money and brings the producer more profit. So all of these factors are simply the reason why, in a market economy, all of these products are simply not that which the consumer really wants. Because if you ask the consumer what they really want, they would say that they want a durable, lasting product that doesn't break down, that doesn't break or just quit functioning like some printer models, for example, do, because there's a chip in them that just tells the printer to stop functioning. Not because anything is broken or not because the ink or the cartridge is empty. No, just because a chip recognizes that you've printed a certain number of pages and it simply tells the printer to stop working. Excuse me. So if you asked the consumer if they wanted an upgradable, recyclable and lasting, durable product, do you think there's any significant percentage of consumers that would say no? I want my product to break down. I want it to always have to be thrown away and have to completely buy a new one to create more waste and trash, and I want it to just simply stop working even though nothing's broken, and I want to change my light bulbs every year even though light bulbs could be built to last 100 years. Do you think, who would say that? Would any consumer want that? So the market economy doesn't give consumers what they want. Right. Coming back, just trying to find back to where I was. But a resource-based economy would. It really would. And that's why the feedback system, the actual telling the producers what you want system would also work much better. Because anyone who is a producer of some good, some device, some food, some clothes, whatever, in a resource-based economy, the only reason they're doing it is to give the consumers of that product exactly what they want. They have no other motives. They have no motive to make more profit, which would motivate them to create planned obsolescence. That's not there in a resource-based economy. So when someone in a resource-based economy has the job because that's what they chose to do or what they like to do, or simply their way of contributing their voluntary part to society, if it's their job to produce, say, a camera, then all they're really interested in is creating the camera or cameras that the people want. And so it would be essential to them what the people tell them about what cameras they want. It would basically be, it would be their input that basically decides what their next model of camera is going to be. They wouldn't sit down in meetings and think about, what new camera could we make? What could we make up or invent that we could then try to sell to the people? Why would they do that? There's no incentive and no motive to just come up with something that no one wants. Of course, as technology progresses, the producers of, say, cameras would of course get new microchips that are faster and new lenses that are more light sensitive and all of that stuff. And they could then, of course, themselves introduce them to their cameras and then tell the consumers about these new options. That, of course, is possible. But it wouldn't be some, like we have it in recent years, for example, with the increase of resolutions. First it was good old standard definition NTSC and PAL resolution, and now all the HD craze, and next is going to be 4K and 8K, and they had the technology to create 4K long before HD was introduced. Why didn't they introduce 4K right away? Obviously because they knew if we introduce first 720p and then 1080p and a few years later 2160p and all of that, we're just going to be able to sell cameras and TVs and Blu-ray players every few years. But if the technology for 4K would have been available in a resource-based economy years ago, it would simply have been built, because it doesn't take more resources to build a 4K camera than it took to build a VHS video camera. It takes a lot less resources actually, because this camera is like a quarter of the size of what video cameras were 15 years ago. So there's really no resource reason not to build the highest standard of technology that we have at the moment. Usually the highest standard of technology takes even less resources. So once again, getting back to this point, the producers of products in a resource-based economy would only be interested in bringing to the consumers the products that the consumers really want, based on the knowledge of technology that the consumers currently have. Usually consumers can't want something that they don't know about. Of course, it would be possible, let's again stay with this example of a camera. If the highest resolution that's currently available is 4K, then of course as a consumer I can think to myself, 8K would be nice. Then I could write to the camera manufacturer and tell them, hey, what about an 8K camera? Can you make that? Is the technology already there? Then the camera manufacturer can look around, inform themselves about what technology is out there. If they see, okay, 8K hasn't been invented yet, then they can, for example, post this to the open source technology community and say, hey, how about someone come up with a way to build an 8K camera? Or if it's already available, they can say, yeah, sure, we can do that. And in a few weeks or months, you're gonna get that camera in old manufacturing terms. When we go to that possibility of 3D printing of actual electronic devices, then you can have it instantly, obviously. In any case, once again, getting back to this point, in an RBE, it's the producers, it's basically the only reason why they do it, why they are producers, is to satisfy the customers' wants of their products. In a market economy, that is not the case. So let me sum this up, I hope shortly, once more. We have these 3 ways. Currently I can't think of another one. Maybe there are other ones. If there are, let me know. But currently I only know of these 3 ways of giving feedback as a consumer to the producer of a product. First way, by my choices as a consumer. Like I said, in a market economy, these work to a certain degree, and to the same degree they would work in a resource-based economy. Also to the same degree they would work in a free market economy. So in all 3 possible economies that we're talking about, economic systems that we're talking about, you would have the existing range variety of products. You could pick from them. This data, this information that you picked and chose, this one variation of product, would go as data, as information in some way back to the producer, and to a certain degree this gives feedback. We have this in all three possible economic systems: a resource-based economy, today's market economy, and a free market economy. So that is equal. I don't see any great differences there. Third possibility, after two, after one usually comes three, two. Second possibility is this do-it-yourself idea. Like I said, in a market economy, in today's market economy and in a free market economy, this is completely idiotic. Creating the perfect camera that you want as someone who is, I don't know, a florist. How? Okay, change your entire life, turn it all completely upside down, become someone who knows how to create cameras and who has the resources and the budget and everything to create your new video camera, just so that as a consumer you can have a different variety of video camera. Makes no sense. Really doesn't. Simply doesn't. It's the same to me in today's economy and in a free market economy. In a resource-based economy, as I explained, this is much more feasible because you have more time, you have the resources available to you, you have the information, you have the open source technology available to you. In the best possible case, you even have a 3D printer or a Star Trek energy matter replicator available or something. So, and even with today's technology, it's much more feasible, much more possible in a resource-based economy to create the product you want and then release it open source to everyone else, and then it's there as an option in the marketplace, in the economy. So we have option one, the pick and choose from the existing variations, which is, let's say, a plus for RBE, for today's economy, and for free market economy. We have the do-it-yourself option, which is a clear absolute minus for free market and today's market economy, and is a clear plus for resource-based economy. And we have the third option, the actually direct telling the producer feedback mechanism of writing it in, phoning it in, simply telling the producer which new ideas you have for new products, which again is at best neutral in both possible market economies, today's market or free market. Both of them have all these factors standing in the way of really giving the producers what they want. Once again, some of these factors are this need to create cyclical consumption, this need to create planned obsolescence, all mechanisms to create more profit, more repeating profit and growth and all of that for you as a producer, if you simply don't actually give the consumer what they want, but make it much worse than what the consumer wants, and keep back products that could already be produced from a technological standpoint, but you just don't produce yet, because if you just give them a quarter of what you can do now and half of what you can do 2 years from now, and what you can do 4 years from now, which will then already be just a quarter of what can be done 4 years from now. If you never give them what could already be done, then you can sell and sell and sell and sell products instead of giving the consumer what they want. So I would say no. I have to correct that. It's not neutral in the market economies. It's again a clear minus in the market economies. Consumers cannot give their feedback through direct mailing it in or phoning it in. It doesn't work. They don't. The producers don't care about what the consumers really want. They will take some of that and then twist it and try their best to screw the most profit out of it. In a resource-based economy, again, clear plus for this direct feedback system of simply telling the producer what you want. So to sum it up, we have 3 pluses for an RBE, 2 minuses and 1 plus for both each of the market economies. So do the math. Resource-based economy, clear winner with 3 pluses against 2 minuses and 1 plus for each of the market economies. When it comes to the topic of feedback, of introducing new products, new variations of products into the market, into the economy. So yeah, pretty clear result there. And if anyone has other ideas how to introduce a new product, a new variation of a product into an economy, please let me know. Currently I can't think of any others. If anyone can disprove or falsify anything of what I said, please with arguments that make sense, not stuff like you have to ask Jacques Fresco and his supercomputer for approval. Please let me know them too. Actually, if you have stupid stuff like that, also write it to me. I always like a good laugh. And with that, I'm just gonna say goodnight. I guess this video has become long enough now, and I'll see you soon in another video when I have more stupid things that free market people told me and more clever things to tell you about a resource-based economy. So till then, peace and bye.